In this video, we're going to be talking about knee pain while hiking, and I'm going to be taking you through a bit of a checklist around different areas that can be really beneficial for helping prevent and manage knee pain on the trail. And essentially, as you go through this checklist, you can hopefully identify some areas which may be neglected, some areas that may be worthwhile putting some attention into to best help your knees. Now, the reason why I'm talking about this is knee pain is such a huge issue in the hiking community, and it is probably the single biggest issue that I talk with hikers about every single week. And when it comes down to pain on the trail and just pain in general, the old school approach to pain was pretty simple. You'd go to a physio, you'd go to a sort of a physical therapist, and they'd poke around, do some assessments, and they would say, you have one issue. You have a muscle which is tight. You have a muscle which is weak. And if you fix this one issue, it will probably solve your pain. And this was the old school approach to pain, which was used for years and years and years. And in all honesty, some people are still using it today. But unfortunately, when it comes down to that, some people are lucky enough to see changes from that. But in all honesty, pain is rarely that simple. And realistically, it is usually the combination of a range of different factors coming together which leads to discomfort and pain, both on and off the trail. And if you are realistically wanting to get on top of it and make a genuine change to this type of thing, you want to be taking a bit more of a holistic approach. It's not a case of just doing one exercise or two exercises and kind of hoping that's going to fix you, but you want to take a bit more of a holistic approach. So you are covering off the necessary bases. You're giving yourself the best chance possible of getting comfortable and ultimately getting out and enjoying your adventures properly. Now, one issue I often see from hikers is when I'm speaking to them about their knee pain, we'll often hop on a call and they'll tell me, look, I've been dealing with this for years and I have tried everything. I've done X, Y, and Z, I've tried it all and I never actually see a change. But then we have a bit of a conversation, we dive into things, and when it comes out, 9 times out of 10, usually they are not doing everything. They've tried some good things, yes, but they've missed crucial things in their picture. They've missed crucial things in their journey. And it's very easy sometimes to say, you know what, actually, this is probably worthwhile honing in. And if you can stick with this and work with this and find something that'll work for you, it is very likely it'll make a bit of a difference. So today, what we're going to be going through is I'm going to be taking you through a bit of a checklist with a bunch of different questions that you can ask yourself to really sort of see, hey, are you covering all your bases or are there particular areas that may need a little bit of work? Now, we're going to be covering 4 different areas: strength, cardio, hiking, and recovery mobility. And we'll sort of dive into each of those very briefly. Now, to be clear, this is not a comprehensive list. There are so many potential factors that goes into each and everyone's individual circumstances. But hopefully this should be a good start for you. So first and foremost, strength. First question, are you doing strength training in your week? If not, that's definitely something you want to have a look at, because strength development and building up strength in the supporting muscles of the knees can be one of the most significant things you can do to help your knees on the trail. If you are doing strength training in your week, ask yourself the question, is the strength training you're doing throughout the week working the quadriceps, the hamstrings, the glutes, the calves, and also the adductors? All of these muscles directly support the knee, and all of these muscles are important for helping you with your knee on the trail in one way, form, or another. And all too often, hikers will focus on 1 or 2 of these areas and they'll do lots of quadricep work, but then end up missing all of these other areas or whatever it may be. So ask yourself, are you ticking off all of these areas? Also, are you also doing single and double-legged work in your training? So is all the stuff you're doing on 2 legs at a time? That's okay, that's a good start, but hiking, there'll be a lot of situations when you're on 1 leg at a time. So are you actively training them? Then ask yourself the question, if you're doing all of this stuff, have you managed to be consistent with this for a minimum of 8 weeks in a row? Because so many hikers I speak to, they say, hey, I started strength training, I did it, and I didn't see any changes. And then we dive into it and we ask, how long did you do it for? And they're like, 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks. And then I got distracted or something came up or I got a bit bored or I got a bit frustrated, I wasn't seeing change. Strength development takes time, and strength development, which is going to affect your pain, takes time. A minimum of 8 weeks in a row is what you want to aim for, if not more. And then ask yourself, have you been applying progressive overload? For example, have you been making things more difficult over time? Because if you've been doing all of this work and you've been following it for 8 weeks in a row, but you've done exactly the same thing all of this time, you're missing out on some potential benefits. The body gets used to things relatively quickly. We need to progressively expose it to more and more challenge, to force it to adapt and give it the stimulus it needs to move forward. So if you answered no to any of those questions, hopefully there's some areas that you can work on there. Next up is cardio and conditioning. One risk factor which often doesn't get talked about in the world of knee pain is that fatigue and exhaustion when you're actually out on the trail can be a risk factor when it comes down to the presentation of pain, both in getting uncomfortable, but also increasing the likelihood of things going wrong, of you taking a misstep, a stumble or a fall or something like that. So, are you doing some type of cardio or conditioning work in your week? Are you actively trying to improve your fitness to ensure you're minimizing fatigue on the trail? On top of that, are you slowly exposing your knees to the specific challenges of hiking? In the world of hiking, there are some particular challenges which can often be triggers on the knees. For example, pack weight. Adding extra pack on your back will put a significant amount of extra force through your knees. So are you, if you're carrying a pack on your hiking or training for a full pack hike, are you slowly but surely exposing the knees to that in the week? Are you doing some loaded pack walking around the neighborhood or whatever it may be and getting that exposure? Or uphills, downhills, they can often be triggers as well. Are you exposing the knees to these types of things in a controlled environment during your week to get a little bit more comfortable, get a little bit more happy, so you can actually get out on the trail without this discomfort? Because a big mistake we often see from hikers is they're like, hey, we get knee pain on downhills on the trail, so I intentionally just avoid downhills as much as I can, which is good in theory, but then you get out on the trail and you hit it downhill and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm in pain again. We need to slowly expose the body to these types of things. And also hiking speed. If you are pushing quick speeds, this can often be a trigger. If you need to get out and hike and keep up with a quicker hiker or hit particular times, are you slowly exposing your body to this? Ask yourself those questions. Next up is hiking. Load management, probably the most crucial aspect of this entire video. Are you planning out your hiking to ensure a slow and steady build? Or are you just doing random distances and difficulties, depending on what you feel like? One of the most significant risk factors for knee pain on the trail is if you just do a big jump up in regards to distance or pack weight or difficulty. And if you're going and going and going, and then all of a sudden we do something really, really difficult, which the body and the knees are just not used to. Planning out your hiking to ensure that week by week or month by month or however you're hiking, you're just slowly getting a little bit more at a time. And if you end up having a big break, then slowly ease yourself back in. Are you doing this or are you just doing random hikes? Gear. Are you using trekking poles? Trekking poles are one of the most simple things you can do to positively impact your knees on the trail. And I know a lot of people are hesitant to use them, but they can be such a game changer. Are you using trekking poles? Energy, as we said before, fatigue, exhaustion are risk factors for knee pain. Are you adequately and intentionally fueling on your hikes? Fueling means eating, and eating for energy. Most hikers I speak to undereat. Most hikers I speak to are getting to that point where towards the end of their hikes, they're tired, they're fatigued, and this and that. And a lot of this can be mitigated by eating more and eating enough to properly fuel you. Are you actively fueling on your hikes? And are you actively hydrating on your hikes? Again, that plays a big role in energy. Water, electrolytes play a big role. Are you actively staying on top of this? And pacing, are you hiking at your own pace, or are you just pushing to speeds which maybe you're not used to? Then final thing is mobility. So this won't cover everyone. All of this stuff that I've covered so far pretty much is everyone. Mobility, you have to ask yourself, do you typically feel like your muscles and joints are a little bit tight, a little bit restricted, just day to day or whatever it may be? Or are you aware that you're super hypermobile, you've got a lot of range of motion, that's never been an issue for you? If you are aware that you're hypermobile or it's never been an issue, forget about this. You probably don't need more mobility. However, if you sort of said, hey, I am aware I get a bit tight, I am a bit restricted, then you want to ask yourself, Are you doing a small amount of mobility work in your week? Are you doing some stretching or some self-massage through the week? Are you working on your hips, your hamstrings, your calves, your glutes, your quads? Those are all important areas, and if they get tight, sometimes that contributes to the knee. You don't have to spend hours and hours and hours of doing this stuff, but even a couple of minutes, a couple of minutes on each of these areas, once or twice a week, can go a long way. And then ask yourself, have you been consistent with this for a minimum of 8 weeks in a row? Because again, so many hikers I speak to, they see a physio, they get a couple of stretches, they do it for 1 or 2 or 3 weeks, and then they get bored and they stop doing it. We need consistency over time. So ask yourself that question. Each of these areas I've covered today are important in the journey of overcoming knee pain while hiking. And on top of that, each of these areas are going to be beneficial for hikers in a range of other areas, even beyond your knees. And as I said, while this may not be a comprehensive list, because there's a lot of nuance and a lot of personalization which will go into each of these topics, and also a lot of individual factors which can often contribute as well, hopefully this is enough to just highlight some areas which you may need to work on. And hopefully it's opened your eyes to saying, hey, actually, I don't do this, or I didn't do this, or I haven't been consistent here. And hopefully it'll help you move forward and give you some direction on where to work. Now, with all that being said, hopefully that in itself is enough to help a few people. However, I fully understand sometimes looking at all this, you're like, okay, cool, but how do I put this all together? How do I get started with strength training? How do I structure out my cardio in a way which is going to help me and just not be too much? How do I plan out my hiking? How do I do all of this? And if it does feel a little bit tricky, this is something I do every day or all week, every day, helping hikers with this type of thing, and I would love to talk with you. This week, we are doing a big promotion and a big push, specifically looking for hikers who struggle with knee pain and who want to make a significant change to their knees over the next 12 weeks. So ultimately, you can get out on your adventures and feel comfortable, feel capable, and feel confident no matter where you're going. Now, if you did want to learn a little bit more about how we go about things and ultimately just see if there's something we may be able to help you with, what I would like you to do is, if you're watching this video in our community group, I'd like you to go down below the video and just comment the words, "I'm interested." Alternatively, if you're watching this directly on YouTube, what I'd like you to do is email me, I'm interested at rowan@summitstrength.com.au. From there, we can basically find a time to have a bit of a chat, either with myself or with our team. And we can sit down, have a really thorough discussion and learn about you, your situation, your needs, and your hiking goals. And if it does sound like something that we're confident we can help you with, then we can sort of talk you through how our training works, how our packages work, and just see ultimately if and how we may be able to help you. Alternatively, if we have that conversation, it's like, actually this is beyond our scope, or this is just something that's not really going to be appropriate for us, or whatever it may be, then we can recommend maybe go book in with a physio, maybe have a chat with someone else, or whatever it is. But if you did want to find a time to chat and hop on this call, basically comment below or email me with the words, "I'm interested." We can have a little bit of conversation and take it from there. But either way, I really do hope this video helps a few people. I really do hope this video can kind of open a few people's eyes. And over the long term, I hope it can really help a few people get on top and overcome this knee pain on the trail. So thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you very soon.